So I challenged the team to a challenge, to create a challenge for us to challenge each other. Let's try that again. Here's Randy Hetrick, the founder of TRX, explaining the 40-40 challenge.
All right, so here we are in the TRX training center, getting ready to do our own 40-40. We've got a wild collection of cats of all abilities. Let's see what we do.
That video is a blast from the past. When I first moved to California, the TRX 40-40 challenge went viral around my management team at Adobe. And it got me hooked on TRX. I convinced my wife to join me for group fitness classes at that headquarters in San Francisco. The challenge was an online challenge that converted me into a brick and mortar customer and had me bringing other members into the studio. Now, when I worked for Adobe, my head of engineering asked me for one day a month where the team could work on a fun project as a way of exploring new ways of using our products. We called it FedEx Day because you had to ship something by the next day. So my FedEx challenge to the ASENSEI team was, can we create a digital version of the 40-40 challenge adjudicated by ASENSEI for our team members around the globe to work out in a fun and engaging way together, but so that I could have something I could make a video about. So let me show you what we built and then let the team tell you how they built it. So here's what the team built in a day. It's a mobile app, Android, iOS. It waits for you to get into position, get your feet in the straps, gives you a 3, 2, 1 countdown. You do your atomic push-ups, as many as you can. And when you stop, it moves you immediately onto the low rows, as many as you can. And when you're done, your score is pushed to a leaderboard. I've got the leaderboard up on my TV in my office. Others are running it in their browser or it's on their phone. But all of us, when we see our scores beaten, it's that incentive to go and take the challenge again and try and push ourselves back up the leaderboard. So let's get into how we built it. Hey Mike, how's it going? Before we jump in, why don't you tell everyone who you are and where you are?
Hi everyone, so my name is Mike. I am an exercise scientist, originally from Manchester and now based up in Glasgow in Scotland.
Awesome. So when I threw down this challenge for the team, your responsibility was, I need to train ASENSEI to recognize the TRX low row and the TRX atomic push-up. So why don't we take the atomic push-up? Talk us through the process of training the atomic push-up.
Yeah, so the push-up is quite a well-established movement for ASENSEI, and we had a few options here on different standards. So to make a good challenge, we've taken one that we've built previously up to a military standard for the US military. So we've gone with that for the atomic push-up for this one.
But then the push-up's got that crunch movement in it as well, so you needed to add that in. How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so we already have burpees as well in the system. So the burpee obviously has that crunch element with the dropping down and then the knees crunch in and back out again. So ASENSEI Dojo allows us to just take a slice of another movement and pair that together to merge two movements into one new one to make things nice and speedy for us.
Awesome. I mean, how long did that process take you to put those two exercises together into one exercise?
So Blake sent me a capture of him performing the atomic push-up, and then just to get to that initial stage of a simple rep count, like talking 15 minutes just to get to a rep count.
No way.
There's more customization come after that. So
15 minutes or 10 years in 15 minutes. It's fast because of all that work that's gone into the underlying SDK. And you mentioned ASENSEI Dojo. That's the tool that you sit at. It's an internal tool that we use to capture exercises, to train exercises, to simulate, to debug. Which is how you're able to do that so quickly. So that got you the basics of counting an atomic push-up. But I know you're always thinking about, like, how do I make it more robust to some of the common mistakes that someone might make, misunderstanding the intent of the exercise. So talk to me about some of the other things that you kind of threw in there as well to make it more robust.
Yeah, so it wants to be a good challenge, but it also wants to be a fair challenge. So people can make honest mistakes, and someone might start with the crunch movement and then drop down into push-up. Someone else might start with the push-up and then do a crunch. So to begin the exercise, we're looking for all movement And then once we've seen one of the two, we'll then alternate one to the other. So that allows anyone just to do whatever they feel most comfortable with, and we'll still accept that as part of the challenge.
And that came out of some of our customer projects, right? Where, you're telling somebody to do alternating lunges or some exercise, and you want them to go back on the right leg first, but they go back on the left leg first, and then it feels like it's not working and it's frustrating for the user. So it's great that you picked that up. And obviously, a big part of the 40-40 challenge is that, you do it until you fail. And for the atomic push-up, that failure is typically you drop your knees onto the ground and give up. So how did you recognize that failure moment?
So I made use of ASENSEI spatial computing, so we can see where the ground is and then see where the body parts are relative to the ground. So in that moment, I'm looking at the knees and how far the knees are off the ground. And when I see the knees on the ground, the user will have half a second leeway, which is obviously not much because we're wanting to give it an instant cutoff. And after half a second, we'll cut the exercise at that point and then just put a bit of feedback to the user on why that exercise is finished and where they've got up to at that point in time.
Awesome. So that same tech that we're using to measure vertical jump height or to decide whether somebody's moving to the left and the right, like FITAR are using for XR gaming, you're using that to see that somebody's not how far they've left the ground, but they're on the ground and they've kind of reached failure. So you're doing all of this in the ASENSEI Dojo, you're simulating it all, you push it to some test apps that we have. Kevin's going to talk about ASENSEI Spark. But how do you kind of package up your work and pass it on to Kevin?
So yeah, ASENSEI Dojo is a massive help here in that system. All I'm looking at is the body joints and the angles and the distance off the ground and all those sort of key metrics. And then I'm sort of building them into various files. But as soon as I press save in this user-friendly system, that's then building all the codes and all the runtime files. So we end up with something that we call a bundle. And then I send that bundle to Kevin for him to test within the code and then pass that on to customers that they can just implement directly.
And so for the engineering teams, either Kevin or our customers engineers, they don't need to know anything about how an atomic push-ups perform. They just get told every time there's a rep, they get told when you've reached failure, or they get told if there's any feedback. That's awesome. So including all of that work and bundling it all up, how long did it take you end to end to do your part of this FedEx challenge?
Yeah, honestly, I'd say about an hour it's given me to set this up, send it to Kevin. So from Blake giving me that video of him doing it to Kevin receiving that bundle, a good hour's work.
That's amazing. Well done. I appreciate lots of your good hours work. So thanks for sharing with us. And I'm going to chat with Kevin now about what he did with your file.
Cheers. Thanks, Stephen.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Hey, Stephen. Going good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. So before we get started, tell everyone who you are and where you are.
Yeah, I'm Kevin. I'm a solutions engineer based in Toronto, Canada.
Awesome. So when I threw this challenge down to the team, you and Mike and Dara kind of stepped up. But you stepped up, but you didn't actually have any work to do. Mike just explained to us how he created the exercise bundle and the workout bundle and passed it to you. But you didn't have any coding to do. Why not?
No, so we use our ASENSEI Spark app, which is an app that's a cross-platform app, and we deliver it to customers so they can test out any ASENSEI capabilities without actually having to integrate our stuff into their projects.
Yeah, so we don't actually give that to end-to-end users, but when one of our enterprise customers wants to try ASENSEI or test their exercises or test a specific coaching experience, maybe it's a movement assessment or maybe it's guided learning where we teach an exercise, or maybe it's just like an AMRAP challenge like this, they don't need to actually do any coding before they can kind of test that whole experience in our environment, and then their engineers can just take that runtime code that we have in ASENSEI Spark and essentially put that runtime code in their own app. Is that right?
That's right. So we just take any of those new JSON files, these new exercise files, and then upload them to the content management system, and then reference them at the app level, and they're good to run.
So what's in the end user app, our customers app, is essentially just some code that's a runtime that's able to kind of take these bundles and run them and administer the workout. So why don't you talk us through the code that, when we built Spark or when our customers are building apps, take us through what they need to implement with our SDK, and we'll show some code on the screen afterwards as well. So why don't you take us through what the process is?
Yeah, definitely. So you take any of these new JSON bundles, load them from your content management system. And then at the app level, we want to initialize the SDK, start the camera, start the tracking. We run a little countdown for 3, 2, 1, and then call our start exercise function on the SDK, which gets it going. Then once the app is running, the user will send notifications for every rep that they do, and we receive those notifications. And for example, we'll see the rep count in that.
So every time I do a rep of the exercise the way Mike wants me to do that exercise, you're just getting these real-time notifications, and that's driving the UI, right?
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So I appreciate you not having to do any code on that, and you just took at the end of the workout, we get the results, right, for how many atomic push-ups we did, how many low rows we did, combine those into a score. What was the last step? How did you get that to a leaderboard?
So yeah, as you mentioned, when both the exercises are finished in this challenge, we generate a workout summary in the form of a JSON packet. And then the ASENSEI training journal actually takes an API endpoint for that JSON, and then we use that for the leaderboard.
Awesome. And Dara built that training journal in our SDK and built the leaderboard. So I'm going to go and speak to Dara and have him tell us how he did that. So Kevin, I appreciate all your work. Thanks so much for taking the time to share how it all worked with us.
Not a problem. Thanks, Stephen.
Hey Dara, how's it going? Before we get into it, why don't you introduce yourself to anyone that's watching? Who are you and where are you?
Hey, hi, Stephen. So yeah, I'm Dara. I'm one of the developers on the team. I'm currently in Sydney right now. I do bounce around a little bit, but this is home for now, for sure.
Bounce around. You follow the surf is what you do, but that's fair. So all right, so you built the training journal in our SDK. So this is we call it a blueprint solution for how do we deliver feedback post-workout? That might be you've been rowing for an hour and we want to give you some feedback on your form and technique, what you're doing well, what you're getting better at, what you need to work on. We use it for movement assessments to deliver either to the athlete or the coach some feedback on mobility and stability and balance. And so when I gave you the 40-40 challenge, you're like, I'll just use the training journal for that. So why don't you explain how you use the training journal and how it works? Give us a little bit of an overview.
For sure. So, I mean, as you said, the training journal is this way of bringing all this information that we collect during a workout and then summarizing it to the user at the very end. In the example of the 40-40 challenge, what we wanted to do was not just collect the username and show that to them at the end, but then also calculate their 40-40 score. And as soon as the workout finishes, show that on a live leaderboard. We already had created training journals before, whether it was for emails, whether it was showing for form feedback for rowing. So within a few hours, we were able to rebuild this. It all started off with our head of experience design called George. He created the initial design in Figma, the initial interface, and we were able to quickly export that into HTML and using a little bit of JavaScript, listen to the events from our app and then display it live on screen. So it was all quite quick. It was also, once it's finished, it's very easy to edit for coaches, for content creators. As a low-code interface.
That's awesome. And so Kevin basically took the exercise package that Mike had given him and ran it, and at the end he took the JSON that it spits out and sent it over to you, and you threw it into an HTML template. And I've got this awesome live leaderboard on my TV where I can make sure I'm always at the top, because you guys all let me win. But no, we get this leaderboard and our names pop up and we challenge each other, and it's fun. It was fun to build and it's really fun to use. So I think what I've really liked about the conversations with both yourself and Kevin and Mike is that you each represent those very intentional constituents that we have in our SDK. We want engineers to have to do as little coding as possible. We want the coaching team to feel empowered, that they are the source of truth on what exercises are performed and how they should be performed. And we want the content team to have complete freedom of control over, their brand and how their brand is expressed and how content's displayed without needing engineers. So yeah, I think you've wrapped up a really good summary of how with a few hours work each, we built this awesome experience with the TRX 40-40 challenge. So thanks for all your hard work and thanks for doing this call.
No worries. Thanks, Stephen. Cheers.
So ask yourself, what would be a fun and engaging challenge for your brand or your product or your community? I want you to close your eyes and imagine a leaderboard with your members on it. and the digital camaraderie of them challenging each other or challenging other members or being challenged by other members in your community. Can you picture your existing members introducing 2 or 3 friends to your product through the challenge? The same way I taught my wife into switching out her workout at Crunch Fitness for a group class at the original TRX headquarters in San Francisco. And as your team are challenged with questions like, how do we drive more app downloads? How can we reduce customer acquisition costs by turning paid media into earned media? How can we create lead magnets that bring prospects into the top of your funnel? Or how can we reduce churn by increasing engagement? Think about viral multiplayer challenges powered by ASENSEI. We love doing these challenges and we love delivering them. So I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes as much as we enjoyed putting it together, and let me know how our team can help. Maybe we can do a FedEx day together.